For many, immigrating to the United States and achieving wealth is considered a lifelong dream, especially among Asian and African communities. But does achieving all of that truly lead to a happy ending? The two cases we're about to explore may offer a very different answer. In 2017, a Korean-American woman named Won-hee, who had lived in the US for many years, suddenly went missing for several days. Her two daughters, unable to reach their mother after multiple attempts, contacted the police. Days later, officers discovered Won-hee's body in a canyon several dozen kilometers away. Once the body was found, investigators quickly unraveled the shocking truth behind the case. It involved infidelity, incest, and murder for financial gain. So, who was the real killer? And why would someone want this woman dead? This crime took place in the small town of Hollister, located in the state of California. The town has a population of fewer than 40,000 people. Known for its peacefulness and relatively low crime rate, Hollister had long been considered a safe place to live. And it's where Won-hee and her family resided. Won-hee was born in September 1968 in Seosan, South Korea. As an adult, she worked as a nurse at a hospital. In 1992, she met a man named Sang-lim, who was the same age as her. The two quickly fell in love, and by 1994, they were married. Not long after, they welcomed two daughters into the world. The family of four began their lives together in happiness. Although life in South Korea was comfortable, Won-hee always dreamed of living in the United States. In 1999, that dream came true when the entire family immigrated to the US. They eventually settled in Hollister, California, and made it their permanent home. After moving to the States, Won-hee found a job as a waitress at a local restaurant. She was enthusiastic, proactive, and always had a warm smile. She quickly adapted to the American lifestyle and formed close friendships with both coworkers and customers. Her two daughters also adjusted well, adopting English names: the elder, Selena, and the younger, Catherine. Won-hee was well loved by those around her. She often helped people in need and was known for her kindness in the neighborhood. One neighbor once said, "Won-hee was a loving mother. She worked hard every day and just wanted to give her daughters a better life." After working at the restaurant for a few years, Won-hee left to open a self-service laundromat, which became very popular in the local community. A few years later, the family moved into one of Hollister's wealthiest neighborhoods. Won-hee also began acquiring real estate. Clearly, the family had become quite wealthy, with assets reportedly reaching tens of millions of dollars. But how did they accumulate so much wealth? Public records do not provide a clear explanation. Some speculate that the family may have won the lottery. After their rise in fortune, Won-hee sent both of her daughters to one of the best private schools in Los Angeles. Yet, her personal lifestyle didn't change much. She continued managing her laundromat. Everyone wants to be wealthy, but wealth doesn't always bring happiness. In some cases, it leads to tragedy no one could have seen coming. On December 2nd, 2017, the Los Angeles Police Department received a distress call from a young woman. Over the phone, she told the officers, "I haven't been able to get in touch with my mother for 5 days. I've called her many times, but no one picks up. My father says she went back to Korea, but our relatives in Korea say she's not there and they haven't heard from her either." The caller was Selena, the eldest daughter of Won-hee. After learning the situation, LAPD promptly transferred the case to the Hollister Police Department. 2 officers were dispatched to the upscale home where Won-hee lived. When they arrived, they found not only Won-hee's husband, Sang-lim, in the house, but also another woman whose presence took the officers by surprise. Sang-lim quickly explained, "She's my cousin from Korea." The police asked Sang-lim, "Where is your wife?" He replied again, "She went back to Korea to visit family." But this answer raised red flags. If Won-hee had traveled to Korea, why hadn't she told her daughters? Adding to the suspicion, Selena informed police that earlier in 2017, her parents had begun divorce proceedings due to Sang-lim's affair. Police conducted an initial walkthrough of the home, but didn't find anything alarming at first. As per protocol, they checked both Sang-lim's and his cousin's phones, but nothing unusual turned up. However, Sang-lim's behavior became notably defensive. He grew angry and even tried to snatch back his phone, which further raised the officer's suspicions. The police swiftly obtained a search warrant and launched a thorough investigation of the property. They discovered that the living room floor had been scrubbed with bleach. Forensic experts conducted a blood reagent test, which revealed that a significant amount of blood had once been present on the floor. In addition, cadaver dogs detected signs of burning in the backyard. Investigators also learned that Sang-lim had sold the family's 1999 Ford sedan just days earlier, a car the couple had owned for years. They tracked down the buyer, a young man who told police, "I bought the car for $1,000. It was in great shape, almost too good of a deal. But there was a ton of white powder inside, which I think was bleach. It took me forever to clean it out." Police examined the vehicle and confirmed the presence of blood traces inside. Given the mounting evidence, authorities feared the worst for Won-hee. A large-scale search was launched. Within a few days, a major discovery was made. On December 6, 2017, police, assisted by cadaver dogs, located a body in a remote canyon area. The site was isolated and rarely visited. The victim was wearing only underwear and was lying face down on the ground. The body was quickly transported to a medical facility for an autopsy. Results showed the cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. Her face and skull had been struck multiple times, and additional external injuries were found across her body. With clear signs pointing to foul play, Sang-lim and the woman identified as his cousin were both arrested as primary suspects. The woman, Choi Jung-ah, was born in 1970 and had only recently arrived in the U.S. from South Korea, just days before the murder. At the police station, Sang-lim quickly confessed to the murder. On the night of November 28, 2017, my cousin arrived from South Korea. I picked her up at San Francisco airport and brought her home. My wife was furious about her unexpected visit, and we got into a huge argument. I was also extremely angry, so when she wasn't paying attention, I grabbed a baseball bat and hit her on the head repeatedly until she collapsed on the floor. Then I drove her body out to that canyon. Just as the police were wrapping up the case, Sang-lim changed his statement. He now claimed that it was actually his cousin, Choi Jung-ah, who killed Won-hee. Around 8 p.m. on November 28th, Won-hee came home and saw Choi Jung-ah there. She was furious and started arguing with Jung-ah. Things escalated and they began fighting physically. Choi Jung-ah got angry and humiliated, grabbed a baseball bat, and struck Won-hee to the ground. Then she kept hitting her until she stopped moving. In the end, we dumped her body in the canyon. Clearly, Sang-lim was trying to shift all the blame for Won-hee's murder onto Choi Jung-ah. However, Choi Jung-ah firmly denied any involvement in the crime. She told the police, "I arrived at San Francisco airport around 10 a.m. on November 28th. Around 11:30 a.m., I met my cousin Sang-lim at the airport. That evening, he drove me to his house in Hollister. At that time, my sister-in-law Won-hee wasn't home. I asked where she was, and he told me she went on a trip with friends and would return in a few days. To this day, I've never even seen her. How could I have killed her? You shouldn't arrest me. I had nothing to do with this case. I want to go back to Korea." According to Choi Jung-ah's statement, she never met Won-hee and therefore couldn't be the killer. But who was telling the truth, Sang-lim or Choi Jung-ah? Or were they both lying? The ongoing investigation gradually brought clarity. Through surveillance footage, police traced Won-hee's movements on November 28th. Around 8 p.m., she was last seen at a gym about 3 miles from home. She was driving away at the time. Choi Jung-ah's flight records confirmed that she landed in San Francisco around 10 a.m. Since the drive from San Francisco to Hollister takes about 2 hours, her arrival at Sang-lim's home in the evening fit the timeline. That means when Won-hee returned from the gym, Choi Jung-ah was already at the house. The two must have seen each other, proving that Choi Jung-ah had lied. So, could Choi Jung-ah actually be the real killer? Both Sang-lim and Choi Jung-ah had mentioned a baseball bat in their statements. It was clear this bat was the murder weapon. However, after the crime, the police had yet to locate it. To dig deeper, officers confronted Choi Jung-ah again. They told her, "We've found your DNA on the baseball bat. How do you explain that?" Upon hearing this, Choi Jung-ah became visibly nervous. After thinking for a while, she said slowly, I noticed cobwebs on the living room ceiling, so I used the bat to clean them. This explanation was clearly forced. Cleaning cobwebs with a baseball bat isn't something a house guest would normally do. The police pressed further, asking, "Do you know where the bat is now?" Realizing she had been tricked, Jung-ah replied, "Sang-lim got rid of the bat. I don't know where he threw it." Based on the current evidence, it's clear that Jung-ah was involved in the case, but was she the one who actually carried out the attack? Further investigation by the police ruled this out. The autopsy revealed that Won-hee died from severe blunt force trauma to the head. Given the amount of force involved, it was unlikely that Jung-ah, who had a petite build, could have inflicted those injuries. It would have taken someone stronger, most likely a man. This pointed to Sang-lim as the primary assailant. A few days later, one of Won-hee's friends provided the police with a crucial clue. Months earlier, Won-hee had told her, "If I die, the person responsible will definitely be my husband." Shocked, her friend had advised her to pack up and return to Korea for a while. But Won-hee refused. She said, "I can't leave my 2 daughters. They still need me." So what was Sang-lim's motive for murder? As previously mentioned, the couple had been going through divorce proceedings due to Sang-lim's affair. Could this conflict have driven him to kill? As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered the true nature of the couple's relationship. After immigrating from South Korea to the US, both Won-hee and Sang-lim worked hard to build a life in their new country. Won-hee started out working at a restaurant and eventually opened a self-service laundromat. Sang-lim, on the other hand, did odd jobs. Realistically, their occupations wouldn't have allowed them to amass wealth overnight. Yet one day, the family suddenly came into a large fortune. They moved into an upscale neighborhood, bought multiple properties, and accumulated tens of millions of dollars in assets. From that point on, Sang-lim began to change dramatically. He became idle, stopped working, and started collecting firearms, eventually amassing over 20 rifles and several handguns in their home. His behavior deeply worried Won-hee. She tried to intervene but failed. Then came an even bigger shock. She discovered that Sang-lim was having an affair with none other than his cousin, Jung-ah. Every day, Sang-lim would video chat with Choi for hours from inside his room. Worse still, he bought her a plane ticket to the US, and the two carried on their incestuous relationship right under Won-hee's roof. It was unbearable for her. In early 2017, Won-hee filed for divorce. However, the couple couldn't reach an agreement on dividing their assets. Won-hee argued that Sang-lim, being at fault, should receive nothing. But Sang-lim demanded more than half of everything. Their disagreement led to repeated, intense arguments and a stalemate. From these details, it's likely that Sang-lim's motive was financial. He murdered Won-hee in cold blood in order to take sole possession of their wealth. On the night of April 28th, as Won-hee returned from the gym, Sang-lim and Jung-ah allegedly conspired to kill her and dispose of her body in a remote canyon. After the murder, they carried on as if nothing had happened. Jung-ah even took over operations at Won-hee's laundromat, presenting herself as the new owner. When asked about Won-hee's whereabouts, they both lied, saying she had gone to Korea to visit family. In December 2018, the district attorney officially filed charges against Sang-lim and Jung-ah. What awaited them was justice. After Won-hee was murdered, her family and friends were devastated. One of her close friends said, "I still can't believe Won-hee is gone. She was such a kind, cheerful, and hardworking woman, and a wonderful mother." In March 2020, the judge handed down the first verdict. Sang-lim was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. In a separate civil ruling, he was ordered to pay each of his daughters $20 million in damages and was stripped of any inheritance rights to his late wife Won-hee's assets. In the end, this greedy murderer walked away with nothing. Jung-ah was also convicted of murder and sentenced to 17 years in prison. After the sentencing, she chose not to appeal. This adulterous pair ultimately faced the punishment they deserved. Everyone wants money, but too much of it can become a burden. Just like Sang-lim in this case, extreme wealth drove him to greed, which turned him into a cold-blooded killer. For most people, having just enough to live comfortably is more than enough. Lastly, we send our deepest condolences to Won-hee. May she rest in peace in heaven. Now let's move on to the second case in this video. Hong Min-ji and her husband, Kang Joo-jeon, had been married for 9 years. To outsiders, they seemed like the perfect couple. Hong Min-ji was incredibly kind-hearted. Despite knowing about Kang Joo-jeon's pre-marriage debts, she never left him. Instead, she worked tirelessly to help him pay off everything he owed. When those debts were finally cleared, Min-ji thought she was stepping into a new, happier chapter of life. But reality turned out to be far more cruel. What awaited her wasn't a loving reward. It was her lifeless body abandoned in the wilderness. So what happened between this seemingly devoted couple? Why did Hong Min-ji lose her life? This tragic case unfolded in the city of Seosan, South Korea. Located on the Taean Peninsula in the midwestern region of the Korean Peninsula, Seosan is a small city with a population under 200,000, where major crimes are rare. Min-ji and her husband, Kang Joo-jeon, lived there. Born in 1985, Kang Joo-jeon entered the Industrial Design Department at Daedok University in 2003, but dropped out 2 years later for unclear reasons. Min-ji, born in 1986, didn't attend college. After graduating from high school, she went straight into the workforce. She was known to be kind and hardworking, well-liked by those around her. In 2009, Min-ji got a job at an amusement park. While working there, she met Kang Joo-jeon. They started off as friends, but eventually became a couple. A former co-worker recalled, their relationship was very close. Everyone admired them. Kang Joo-jeon seemed gentle and kind. He was especially sweet to Min-ji and always catered to her needs. In 2012, Kang Joo-jeon left the amusement park and found a new job in Seosan. The couple went through a period of long-distance dating, but it didn't seem to affect their relationship. After 5 years of dating, they got married in 2014. Min-ji then moved to Seosan and found a new job, and they began their married life together. Unfortunately, their happiness didn't last long. Just a year after getting married, Kang Joo-jeon landed another job in a different city, leaving Min-ji alone in Seosan. Once again, they were living apart and could only see each other on weekends. A friend of Min-ji shared, after they got married, she would really look forward to weekends because Kang Joo-jeon came home. During those short weekends, he'd take her camping, fishing. Every weekend was something new. They looked like a loving couple. We were all happy for Min-ji. Time flew by, and before anyone realized, the couple had been married for nearly a decade. But there was something that struck friends as odd. Despite their close relationship, they never had children. One of Min-ji's friends remarked, she loved kids and always wanted to be a mom. As her friends, we assumed maybe Kang Joo-jeon couldn't have children, but Min-ji denied that was the case. Hong Min-ji's family often urged the couple to have children. Whenever they brought it up, Min-ji would reply, "We'll think about having kids once we're more settled." Her answer always puzzled them. After nearly 10 years of marriage, what else was there to settle? No one could have imagined that behind this seemingly loving marriage was a shocking secret, one that quietly planted the seed for an impending tragedy. January 25th, 2023, was a Wednesday and the first day back at work in South Korea after the Lunar New Year holiday. Hong Min-ji was working as a janitor at a shopping center. She was known as an exceptional and hardworking employee, always arriving early and proactively completing her tasks. She typically arrived at work around 7:10 a.m., but on January 25th, noon came and went without any sign of her. This had never happened before. One of her co-workers informed their supervisor, Mr. Park, about the unusual situation. Concerned, Mr. Park tried calling Min-ji. At first, the call went through, but no one answered. A short while later, her phone was no longer reachable. This only increased the co-worker's worries. Later that afternoon, a colleague went to Min-ji's home and knocked on the door, but there was no response. The fact that Min-ji wasn't home to answer her phone made everyone even more concerned. The co-workers collectively decided to contact the police for assistance. After receiving the report, the police immediately began tracking Min-ji's phone location. A short time later, they responded with troubling news. The phone couldn't be located. In other words, her phone was completely offline. That same evening, around 9 p.m., the police visited the company where Kang Ju-jeon worked. Shockingly, Kang had also not shown up for work that day, and his co-workers were already looking for him. Kang's boss shared a strange message he had received the night before. Around 8:30 p.m. on January 24th, he said, "I got a text from Hong Min-ji." She wrote, "Sir, I'm so sorry to text you this late. My husband's phone is broken and he has to go get it replaced tomorrow morning, so I'm messaging you on his behalf. My phone is also acting up, so I can't make calls." I replied, "All right, please have Kang Ju-jeon inform his team leader." From this message, it appeared both of their phones were supposedly broken. But it doesn't take an entire day to fix a phone. Something wasn't adding up. By 9 p.m. on January 25th, the police had tried calling both Min-ji and her husband again, but neither phone could be reached. They then contacted the couple's family members, but no one had heard from them either. With the family's cooperation, the police decided to visit the couple's home. The couple was not at home. The house appeared completely normal, with no signs of a struggle. The underfloor heating in the room was still on, making it look like they had just stepped out for a while and would return soon. In the kitchen, there were leftover pork ribs, a spoon, and 2 pairs of chopsticks in the sink. All signs suggested that Kang Ju-jeon and his wife hadn't gone far. However, what the police uncovered next shocked everyone. On January 26th, they pulled the location data from both phones over the previous few days. The couple had last appeared in a completely unexpected location, near Yangjong Island in Incheon, South Korea, where Incheon International Airport is located. The drive from Seosan, where the couple lived, to Yangjong Island takes about 2 hours. The police immediately checked immigration records and discovered something crucial. At 8:16 p.m. on January 23rd, Kang Ju-jeon had boarded a flight alone from South Korea to Vietnam. There were no records of Hong Min-ji leaving the country. In other words, Kang had traveled to Vietnam alone, while Min-ji had vanished. The police quickly located Kang's car in the airport parking lot. The interior of the vehicle was in good condition, but in the trunk, they found a woman's pendant. Co-workers confirmed it was the same pendant Hong Min-ji always wore. This discovery was both unexpected and deeply unsettling. Investigators then pieced together Kang Ju-jeon's movements leading up to his departure. It was confirmed that before heading to Incheon Airport, Kang had visited a place called Anmyeon Island and had stayed there for a while. The police collected all available surveillance footage from the main roads on Anmyeon Island and quickly tracked Kang's activity. At 1:45 p.m. on January 23rd, his car was seen parked in front of a restaurant. 50 minutes later, at 2:35 p.m., the same car appeared at a nearby gas station on the same highway. The distance between the restaurant and the gas station was only 886 meters, normally a 1-minute drive. But Kang had taken nearly 50 minutes. This raised red flags. The police visited the area in person and noticed there was a reservoir between the 2 locations. It immediately caught their attention, and they launched a full search effort in and around the water. After several days of searching, they discovered a camping bag submerged in the reservoir. Inside was a body. Upon careful identification, it was confirmed to be Hong Min-ji, who had been missing for days. A kitchen knife was also recovered from the water, believed to be the murder weapon. A few days later, the results of Min-ji's autopsy were released. The cause of death was asphyxiation. She had been strangled. In addition, her body showed more than a dozen knife wounds of varying sizes, including deep slashes. The attack was brutal and merciless. Kang Ju-jeon was immediately named the prime suspect. The police issued a red notice for his arrest through Interpol and began an international manhunt. The police discovered that Kang Ju-jeon first traveled from South Korea to Vietnam, then from Vietnam to Thailand, and later from Thailand to Cambodia. On February 8th, he purchased a plane ticket to the Philippines scheduled for 2 days later. South Korean authorities immediately notified the Philippine police with this crucial lead. On February 10th, Kang Joo-jeon was officially arrested at Manila International Airport in the Philippines. At the police station, Kang completely denied killing his wife, claiming that the police had the wrong person. What he said next shocked everyone. Kang told investigators, "About 3 years ago, I met a mysterious man online. At first, he said, 'If you help me transport goods, I'll pay you well.' I heard the pay was generous, so I agreed. I didn't know at the time that the goods were drugs. After a while, I realized what it was and tried to stop, but he wouldn't let me, and even threatened me. On the night of January 22nd, 2 unknown men suddenly showed up at my house. They knocked me unconscious. When I came to, I found that Hong Min-ji had been strangled to death by them. The police asked, 'Do you know how to contact this mysterious man?' Kang replied, 'I don't know his name or phone number. We only communicated through a social media app. He sells drugs and changes his online ID frequently.' They pressed further, 'Then why did you dispose of your wife's body before leaving the country?' Kang paused, then answered, 'I was scared of being seen as a murderer, so I handled her body myself.' Police strongly suspected Kang was lying. From what everyone knew, Kang and his wife appeared to have a loving relationship. Most people thought he was a devoted husband. But if that were true, and he found his wife had been murdered, the first thing a good husband would do is report it to the authorities, not dump her body in a reservoir. To verify his story, police attempted to retrieve surveillance footage from the apartment building where Kang lived to confirm whether 2 mysterious men had really visited. Unfortunately, the apartment was old and did not have any security cameras installed. However, a downstairs neighbor gave the police a valuable clue. Around 2 a.m. on January 23rd, I went to a convenience store to buy some alcohol. When I got home, around 2:30 a.m., I heard loud noises coming from upstairs. It sounded like someone was dragging something heavy. The noise went on for quite a while. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I went upstairs and knocked on the door. A man's voice came from inside saying, "I can't open the door right now, I'm sorry." Based on this lead, police were able to reconstruct the likely timeline of Kang Joo-jeon's actions. Around 2 a.m. on January 23rd, Kang Joo-jeon murdered his wife, Hong Min-ji. Around 2 p.m. the same day, he drove to a reservoir on Anmyeon Island and disposed of her body. At 8:16 p.m. that evening, he boarded a flight from South Korea to Vietnam. Just as South Korean authorities were preparing to extradite Kang Joo-jeon, shocking news arrived from the Philippines. Kang had escaped from prison. On May 21st, 2023, Kang Joo-jeon broke out of a detention facility in the Philippines. Filipino police immediately launched a large-scale manhunt. 8 days later, they located Kang hiding in an apartment and arrested him again. At the time of his arrest, he was found with 2 other South Koreans, a man named Lin and a woman named Kim, and police discovered 1 kilogram of drugs in the apartment. The news sent shockwaves through South Korea. Prison escape, drug trafficking, none of it aligned with what people knew of Kang Joo-jeon. During preliminary investigations, everyone who had known him described Kang as kind, honest, and incapable of killing his wife. So who was Kang Joo-jeon really? The investigation that followed revealed a far more sinister side to him. Ms. Xu, a childhood friend of Hong Min-ji, shared a shocking secret with the police, one that even Hong's family didn't know. The 2 were very close and shared everything with each other. After Min-ji and Kang returned from their honeymoon, they hit a major crisis. During the trip, Kang confessed, "Actually, I'm in serious debt, about 100 million Korean won. Now that we're married, I can't keep it from you anymore." Min-ji was devastated and furious. "She came to stay at my house for a few days after they got back," Ms. Xu told police. A few days later, Hong Min-ji calmed down. She told Ms. Xu, "I'm angry at him, but I still love him. I've decided to help him pay off the debt. Once it's gone, we'll try for a baby. We'll start fresh." After that, Min-ji worked incredibly hard and lived extremely frugally. After work, she would eat only a simple meal of kimchi and rice. In June 2022, she called Ms. Xu and excitedly said, "I'm almost done helping him pay off his debt. We're going to start a brand new life. But the happiness didn't last. On January 11th, 2023, Min-ji called Ms. Xu again, this time in tears. "Sis," she cried, "Kang Ju-jeon is in trouble again. He's racked up a lot of new debt." This detail painted a clear picture. Kang likely killed his wife because of financial problems. A few days later, one of Kang's former co-workers confirmed Ms. Xu's account. "When we worked together, he often asked to borrow money," the co-worker told police. "He gave off the sense that he was hiding something. He wasn't as honest or harmless as he looked." Kang Ju-jeon's company boss also provided police with a key lead. A few days before the Lunar New Year, Kang called me asking to get 2 months of his salary in advance, about 8 million won, approximately $5,500. I asked him, "Does your wife know?" He replied, "She kind of knows." That vague answer raised red flags for me, so I denied his request. So, why was someone who appeared so gentle and honest drowning in debt? The police quickly uncovered Kang Ju-jeon's secret. They reviewed all of Kang's loan records and discovered that in 2014, he had borrowed a total of 120 million won, around 82,000 USD, from more than a dozen lending companies. By June 2022, while Hong Min-ji believed those debts were nearly paid off, the reality was that only a small portion had been repaid. She was completely unaware of the full extent of his financial problems. As previously mentioned, not long after their wedding, Kang took a job in a different city. For years, the couple only saw each other on weekends, something that was later revealed to be a calculated plan by Kang to conceal his secret life. So, what was all that borrowed money used for? An attorney from one of the loan companies told police, "Kang Ju-jeon always claimed he needed money for basic living expenses, but in truth, he squandered most of it. According to our investigation, he was heavily into gambling and frequently visited illegal casinos. He also spent a lot of time at bars, karaoke lounges, and other nightlife venues. Sometimes he would burn through 500,000 won, about 340 USD, in a single night." A former co-worker of Kang also told police, "He loved gambling. I remember once when the company sent us to China for a business trip. Not long after we checked into the hotel, he ran out to buy stacks of quick-draw lottery tickets, the kind that reveal results every 10 minutes. Police also reviewed his immigration records and discovered that over the past 3 years, Kang had traveled multiple times between South Korea and various Southeast Asian countries, never staying long in any one place. He had especially frequent visits to the Philippines. Given his prison escape and drug activity in the Philippines, investigators concluded that Kang had likely been trafficking illegal goods over the past 3 years for large payouts. From all the evidence gathered, it became clear Kang Ju-jeon was far from the gentle, honest man he appeared to be. He was a man consumed by drugs, gambling, and nightlife. Tragically, Hong Min-ji had no idea who her husband really was. Police also discovered that around 2:30 p.m. on January 23rd, someone used Hong Min-ji's credit card to take out a loan of 20 million won, approximately 13,700 USD. Starting January 24th, someone began withdrawing a total of 43.4 million won, about 29,700 USD, from Hong Min-ji's account. These withdrawals were made overseas, in Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia, the exact countries Kang Ju-jeon passed through while on the run. This strongly suggests that the person withdrawing the money was Kang Ju-jeon. From this, it's likely that his motive for murder was financial. South Korean authorities are actively working with police in the Philippines, hoping to extradite Kang Ju-jeon back to Korea for trial. However, because he is also involved in drug-related crimes in the Philippines, he must first be prosecuted under Philippine law. As a result, his extradition to Korea is expected to take considerable time. Hong Min-ji was a devoted wife, hardworking, kind-hearted, and loyal to her husband. All she ever wanted was to start a new, happy life with him. But all of that was destroyed by a man consumed by drugs, gambling, and alcohol, a man who ultimately took her life without remorse. It's a heartbreaking tragedy. In the end, We can only hope that the kind-hearted Hong Min-ji has found peace in heaven, finally beginning a new life of her own, one free from pain and betrayal.